Paragraph 13. He had been drawn toward a worldly course by his parents' siren song, and he was unwilling to abandon it. So he had gone to Rome ahead of me to study law, and there he was assailed by an entirely unexpected craving for gladiatorial entertainments. This came about in a way no one could have foreseen. He shunned such displays and loathed them, but some of his friends and fellow students, returning from their midday meal, happened to find the stadium open to them, and, as is the way with close friends, drew him in by force, despite his vehement protests and struggles. It was one of the days for cruel and murderous sport, and he kept telling them, "You may drag my body into that place and fix me there, but can you direct my mind and my eyes to the show? I will be there and yet be absent, and so get the better both of you and the performance." They heard what he said, but took him along with them all the same, wishing perhaps to know if he could make good his claim. When they arrived and settled themselves in what seats they could find, the whole place was heaving with thoroughly brutal pleasure. He kept the gateways of his eyes closed, forbidding his mind to go out that way to such evils. If only he could have stopped his ears, too. At a certain tense moment in the fight, a huge roar from the entire crowd beat upon him. He was overwhelmed by curiosity, and on the excuse that he would be prepared to condemn and rise above whatever was happening, even if he saw it, he opened his eyes and suffered a more grievous wound in his soul than the gladiator he wished to see had received in his body. He fell more dreadfully than the other man whose fall had evoked the shouting, for by entering his ears and persuading his eyes to open, the noise effected a breach through which his mind, a mind rash rather than strong, and all the weaker for presuming to trust in itself rather than in you, as it should have done, was struck and brought down. As he saw the blood, he gulped the brutality along with it. He did not turn away, but fixed his gaze there and drank in the frenzy, not aware of what he was doing, reveling in the wicked contest, and intoxicated on sanguinary pleasure. No longer was he the man who joined the crowd. He was now one of the crowd he had joined, and a genuine companion of those who led him there. What more need be said? He watched, he shouted, he grew hot with excitement. He carried away with him a madness that lured him back again, not only in the company of those by whom he had initially been dragged along, but even before them, dragging others. Nonetheless, you rescued him from his plight with your mighty and most merciful hand, and taught him not to rely on himself, but on you. This was long afterward. The foregoing episode was stored up, paragraph 14. The foregoing episode was stored up in his memory and contributed to his future healing, as did also another. Once, when he was still a student and attending my classes at Carthage, he was in the marketplace at midday, thinking over the passage he had to declaim, as is customary in scholastic training. You allowed him to be arrested by the temple guards as a thief, and I thank our God that you did so for no other reason than to ensure that this youth, who was destined to be such a great man, should learn even at this early stage that in judicial hearings one person ought not to be condemned too easily through the rash gullibility of another. This is what happened. He was walking up and down alone in front of the law court with his tablet and pen, when a certain young student, the real thief, secretly brought an axe and, without Alypius being aware of it, gained access to the leaden gratings over the part of the market assigned to the silversmiths, and began to hack away at the lead. The silversmiths below heard the sound of the axe and softly discussed what to do. Then they sent men to arrest anyone they might find. Hearing their voices, the thief fled, leaving the axe behind, because he was afraid of being caught with it in his possession. But Alypius, who had not seen him go in, observed him come out and take to his heels, and wishing to know the reason, went into the place, picked up the axe, and stood there holding it, considering the matter in some surprise. The men who had been sent came and found him alone and holding the very tool which had alerted them by its noise. They seized him and dragged him off, boasting to a crowd of bystanders in the marketplace that they had caught the thief red-handed. Then they led him away to stand trial.